Confronted by his future self, Captain Pike learns the importance of his horrific fate in Star Trek Strange New Worlds' first season finale, A Quality of Mercy. But what happened? What did I like? And what didn't I like so much? Before I get into this recap and review, please note this video contains spoilers, so if you've not yet seen this episode, or any of Strange New Worlds' first season, this might not be the video for you. Let's warp into this! The Enterprise is on the edge of the Federation Romulan neutral zone, assisting Outpost 4 with retrofitting and supplies. During a meeting, Pike comes face to face with the Outpost commander's son, Ma'at al-Salah, one of the cadets lost during Pike's future life-changing accident. Pike is shaken by the encounter, excusing himself and heading to his quarters. Once again, looking at the names and faces of the cadets, Pike decides to take action, beginning a recording to Ma'at in an attempt to change their fate. Pike's recording is quickly interrupted, however, by a familiar voice who emerges from the shadows, revealing himself as an older Pike from the future. A suitably epic start to an episode that has all the traits of a classic Trekian finale. As pre-credit sequences go, this is probably my favourite of the season, an effective and condensed blend of high-quality visuals and intrigue, culminating in one of the biggest WTF moments Trek has given us in years. I'm not going to lie, the sight of an older Pike wearing the monster maroon threads melted my brain. To me, this classic uniform is an immediate visual cue to Trek's peak and my all-time favourite era for the franchise. Trek has revived classic looks in the past, but they've always appeared cheap looking and poorly fitting, with Data's appearance at the start of Picard's first season being a pretty cringy example. But here the revival of the look works brilliantly, with the uniform redesigned to better match the contemporary threads worn by Pike and crew. A tremendous effort by costume designer Bernadette Croft, who has produced some excellent work over this first season. Credit also has to go to the makeup department, which avoided the pitfalls of past Trek, giving us an older Pike that looked believable as an old and tired version of the captain. Future Pike reveals his attempt to save the cadets and himself was successful, but came with catastrophic, history-altering consequences. Future Pike presents a time crystal taken from the Klingon monastery on Borif to show the captain the effects of changing his fate. "This is serious," Future Pike tells his younger self. "End of the world stuff." Pike takes the crystal and finds himself moved in time and space, now officiating a wedding between two crew members. The moment is quickly interrupted by a red alert klaxon, as well as Spock, who reveals Outpost 4 is under attack by an unknown vessel. Meeting with Spock, Pike learns the year is 2266, 7 years in his future. Spock learns the truth of Pike's original future and fate through a mind meld and posits that in this future no one was hurt in the accident, so Pike remained in command of the Enterprise during a crucial moment in history. The two realize that in order to discover what that moment is, they will have to live through it. The Enterprise arrives at a badly damaged Outpost 4, whose commander reveals the extent of the attack and the powerful plasma-based weapons of their enemy. The enemy then returns, decloaking and firing another shot which destroys the outpost before moving off and reactivating its cloak. Also responding to the outpost distress signal, the USS Farragut arrives on the scene with its captain, James T. Kirk, offering their assistance. Discovering the enemy ship can be tracked due to its power-draining cloak, Pike and Kirk plot a course to shadow the enemy ship as it slowly heads towards the neutral zone. The Enterprise then intercepts an encoded message from the enemy ship, which has bounced off a nearby comet. Spock decodes the message, which reveals the Romulans, who, much to the surprise of the crew, appear strikingly familiar to the Vulcan science officer. The episode's heavy leaning on the classic TOS episode Balance of Terror has left me with some pretty conflicted thoughts. On one hand, I'm totally fine with repurposing pre-existing Trek to tell new stories. I actually quite liked the Pasta Mama scene at the start, which subtly lampshaded the concept of making something new from old ingredients. Yes, the episode borrows liberally, but it does so in a way that sufficiently transforms, giving us new moments that work with the overarching story the season has been trying to tell. For some, this borrowing might be too excessive, but I thought it was handled pretty well and hopefully might encourage fans to discover or rediscover some classic Trek. And yes, I absolutely loved all those moments utilizing Shatner light, super close-ups, and the return of that dramatic zoom we saw so often in the original series. But on the other hand, this episode is a great summation of my biggest concern with Strange New Worlds so far, and that it just hasn't really given us anything that could be considered new. It's all just remixes and rehashes at this point, and anything new that has been added has either been killed off or remains sat to the side waiting to be explored. Pike meets with the crew as well as Captain Kirk to discuss the situation. Hoping to avoid a war, Pike prefers a more diplomatic solution, but Kirk suggests attacking the enemy in retaliation for the loss of their outposts. Kirk then suggests a compromise, using the tail of the comet to flank and trap the Romulan ship. Pike agrees to the plan, but only if they can neutralize and open a dialogue. Impressed by the brash young Kirk, Pike wonders if he is the key to the future he's trying to prevent. The ships pass through the comet's tail, but are ambushed by the Romulan ship, which destroys the Farragut and damages the Enterprise before moving off once again. The Farragut's crew beam to the Enterprise, including La'an, who reunites with Pike. Pike asks after Una, who is missing from his crew, but La'an hasn't spoken with her as she isn't allowed contact with anyone. Before Pike can learn more, Kirk beams aboard and berates the captain for his reserved approach. Pike defends himself, reminding Kirk that his command style is the reason they stand aboard his ship, which hasn't been destroyed. Spock calls the pair to the bridge and reports the Romulan ship was damaged in the engagement and likely won't be able to make it back to Romulus. Unable to attack but still looking for a peaceful solution, Pike takes a risk and hails the Romulans, offering a ceasefire and a dialogue to try and end over a century of hostilities. The Romulans respond, their commander pleased to make Pike's acquaintance. While I'm sure he'll grow on me in time, Paul Wesley's Captain Kirk didn't work, and we got off to the worst possible start with the thick use of fanfare used to reintroduce the character. This felt to me like the show wasn't confident that Wesley's performance alone would sell the return of the iconic character, and they were right. Yes, Shatner's Kirk is synonymous with cheesy overacting and line delivery, but that's not all the character is. Love them or hate them, the Kelvin movies did a great job in this department, with Chris Pine's depiction feeling authentic whilst never coming close to a direct copy, which would have run the risk of bordering on parody. The episode does get some things right, such as Kirk's ability to bluff with the Armada, which is reminiscent of his big gamble seen in the classic episode, the Corbomite Maneuver. But Kirk was never just a rule-breaking wildcard, presented in the original series as a by-the-book captain, just armed with good instincts. His appearance here feels like another instance of modern Trek misunderstanding the character, something they either can't or don't want to get right. Ultimately, Wesley's take feels off, feeling less Kirk and more just a generic action schlock captain. There are small glimpses of promise, sure, but it wasn't nearly enough to sell me on this casting, which was crucial to the success of the episode given its setting. Pike and the Romulan commander agree to a 2-hour ceasefire, a move the two hope will lead to better relations. Ortega's voices her disapproval, but is shut down by Pike, who finally loses patience with her aggressive attitude. Pike confides in Spock, fearing there is still something worse to come, and also asks about Una, who Spock reveals is serving time at a penal colony for deception, something he thought the captain knew about. Kirk then arrives and proposes a backup plan in the event the Romulans decide to fight, and requests to borrow a shuttle. Later on the bridge, Uhura confirms the end of the 2-hour ceasefire. Pike hails the Romulan commander and once again calls for a peaceful resolution, an idea the commander is open to, having grown tired of endless war. Their progress halts, however, with the arrival of a massive Romulan fleet. The Enterprise is hailed by the Romulan Praetor above the flagship, who demands their surrender, but things soon even up with the arrival of Kirk and a large number of ships consisting of unmanned mining craft, which the captain hopes the Romulans will accept as Starfleet reinforcements. Pike contacts the Praetor, showing her proof of their aggression with footage of the Romulan ship destroying their outpost. Unfazed, the Praetor responds by destroying the Romulan ship as punishment for getting caught and orders her fleet to attack the Enterprise and its drone armada. Kirk moves his ships into the firing line, buying the Enterprise time to get warp back online. A Romulan ship then fires a plasma energy torpedo at the Enterprise, which is partially blocked by a mining craft, but still causes major damage to the ship. Kirk beams aboard and warp is restored, allowing the Enterprise to retreat just in time, but the situation is grim as Uhura reports the Romulans have declared war against the Federation. Reports then come in from all decks, with weapon systems suffering major damage in the battle. Realizing Spock was supervising repairs in that station, Pike worriedly heads to sickbay, where he finds his friend and colleague severely injured and disfigured. Nurse Chapel reveals the extent of his injuries, and tells Pike that even if he manages to recover, he won't be the same. Pike stands in silent horror, realizing his fate has been suffered by Spock instead. Visually, the episode is another excellent example of just how beautiful Trek can be with a budget, but this has become a prerequisite for the franchise in modern times. I love the establishing shot of Outpost 4 with its dizzying pan reminding me of Dr. Weir's introduction in Event Horizon, perhaps intentional as some sort of descent into hell and madness. The battle scenes were all excellent, but the effect shots for Commander Hansen's death, while a cool recreation of the original scene, did look a bit poor. The reveal of the critically injured Spock also left me with mixed feelings. Conceptually, the twist is fantastic, a chilling development that gives the episode and Pike's entire arc this season greater meaning. Not only that, but it also crystallizes Pike and Spock's relationship, giving us a clear understanding of Spock's motivations as seen in the menagerie. It's moments and things like this that give Strange New Worlds real value as a prequel series, and again I hope this drives more fans to revisit Trek's quaint but essential past. But, and that's a big but, the execution of the scene disappointed, feeling overwrought, overscored, and overexposed. Did we really need a big bombastic musical score to hammer home how we should be feeling? Did we really need to see Spock in all his gory glory when focusing on the heartbroken reactions of Chapel and Pike would have been just enough? After all, it's what you don't see that's often the most horrific. And did we really need to see those weird fisheye shots of Pike walking through sickbay, looking like something out of a U2 music video? I don't think so. This was a big moment, one that I feel would have improved with nuance, but instead we got something akin to having a shuttle dropped on our heads. Pike is once again visited by his future self, who reveals the Romulan confrontation had long-standing consequences, starting a devastating war that still rages in his time, a conflict that should have never happened. Future Pike also reveals changing his fate in any way results in Spock's death in any timeline, removing a significant historical figure from crucial events. Fate of the galaxy type things, as Future Pike puts it. Realizing what he has to do, Pike thanks his future self and spends a moment with Kirk before returning to the present and deleting his message to Al-Salah. Finally accepting his fate, Pike returns to the bridge before Uhura reports Captain Patel is beaming over and requests he and Una join them. Arriving in the transporter room, Patel apologizes to Pike and places Una under arrest for concealing her true nature as an Ilean. Pike tells Patel this isn't over as Patel takes Una into custody and beams away. Far be it from me to turn down more Star Trek, but I did feel this was an episode that didn't need to stretch over an hour, a feeling hardened by its ending which, while set up perfectly fine, felt tacked on and isolated from much of what we'd seen. While I understand the need to give us something intriguing to heat up anticipation for season 2, I feel the show could have given us a far stronger ending by cutting this episode shorter and giving us a cliffhanger ending. Personally, I would have ended this with the arrival of the Romulan fleet, led by the Praetor, who I would have had played by the actress who plays T'Pring, who would have been revealed in season 2 as just someone who looks similar to Spock's wife-to-be. Because hey, Star Trek loves doing this kind of thing, but how awesome an ending would that have been? Instead, what we got here was pretty disappointing, also feeling far too similar to what Lower Decks gave us with their second season finale barely a year ago. A Quality of Mercy is a good episode, but it falls just short of being a great one. It's a nice bow on what has been a strong first season, giving us a satisfying resolution to its primary arc, and also setting up new stories that will hopefully lead to a shift in focus in season 2. But despite its loving tributes to classic Trek of old, it falls just short of greatness with a forgettable first impression of our new Kirk, logic that doesn't quite stand up to scrutiny, and an underlying feeling that, much like Pike's pasta mama, this isn't the freshest dish that could have been made. I'm giving A Quality of Mercy 3.5 stars out of 5. But what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Star Trek reviews, recaps, lore theories, and more coming soon. Until next time, I'm the TrekLad. Live long and prosper.